This is a common sight for rail fans who live in Tampa, the sun cresting the horizon on its morning ascent over I-4. We're heading eastbound this morning out towards Lakeland and points east in search of anything the railroad might throw our way. Welcome back, everybody. It's Saturday, August 24th, 2024, and we've cut out the entire day for some rail fanning in familiar territory. Now, since it is Saturday, I won't expect to see any locals around, considering most are weekday jobs, with the exception of a few in Lakeland, like this L792. As discussed in a previous summer video, L793 and L792 are locals between CSX's Miami facility in Hialeah and Winston, profiled as rock shuttles. They're usually overnight jobs, but today the northbound Winston-bound L792 would enter the area just after 8 a.m., passing us here at Wabash Avenue at 8:30. We'd follow the short train down to Winston Y, where a lunar white restricting signal would guide L792 into the yard. Today's train to Miami would be mostly made up of short gondolas loaded with aggregate for Mulberry and the Seminole Gulf in Sarasota, with a couple of rock hoppers bound for anywhere between Davenport and Waycross. Work on the brand new Cemex facility is well underway in Winston and is already receiving cars on the spur that breaks out on the south leg of the Y here. Tracks were laid down well before any real construction began for this purpose. Deliveries by rail will actually aid in building up the foundation and surrounding property around the plant, resulting in this odd sight of a customer receiving cars before their facility even exists. From here, we'd begin driving north towards the Vitus Sub in Lakeland Junction, stopping off at the US 98 overpass that crosses the Vitus Sub and its 10th Street siding. Looking south, the now beautiful and well-maintained Bonnet Springs Park resides in, as most of you know, the same land that ACL had its downtown Lakeland Yard and engine shops. Moved to a brand new facility called Winston in the 1970s shortly after becoming Seaboard Coastline, the land soon became a vacant field contaminated with decades of use by the railroad. Back in the day, trains coming off the Vitus Sub would enter the yard by a connection track here that broke off the main line right about where US 98 now flies over. It was called Back Junction, as it was on the timetable, the back of the yard or the backway entrance. A small piece of the old yard lead still remains near 10th Street, still maintained and sometimes used to tie down equipment or bad order cars in. Now in 2024, when a train gets permission to operate in that track, you can still hear the dispatcher call it Back Junction, although it ceased to exist for over 5 decades. Another few miles north is Kathleen, where we'd set up on a little private crossing about 2 miles from the control point and defect detector. During the summer months, Kathleen is one of the best spots in the state to film southbound trains, like this morning's M453 rolling south towards Lakeland Connection and the A-Line.
Dispatcher Jacksonville, over. 453, over. Okay, I actually do have your line for the connection, and I put the instructions for the bus that they're to go to Lakeland Connection to pick y'all up. All right, have a good morning. See you next dispatcher out.
Now that L743 and L729 take the rock traffic to and from Winston and points north, M603 and M604 take care of the freight traffic out of Lakeland, which means M453 and 452 no longer work Winston, instead getting crew changes at 10th Street for the northbound and the junction for the southbound. Today, however, 453 was long enough to not fit in the 10th Street siding, so the Baldwin crew would be picked up at Lakeland Connection, seen here from West Main Street. From the radio conversation we heard earlier, we'd know that 453's Miami crew wouldn't go on duty until 13:30, so we'd head elsewhere. Down the hill about a half mile is South Lakeland, a very familiar spot for many rail fans around here, now a little less busy than years prior. Here since the days of the old ACL cantilevers, Goddard's Produce is now closed and has completely shut down. The parking once full of freezer trucks is now empty all 7 days a week, and the actual building's fate is unknown. We'd be here for L729, who'd receive a medium clear signal on track 2 to diverge onto the A line for just a few yards before turning north onto the Vitus sub towards Wildwood. 2 engines would power this impressive train up the hill this morning, appearing just after 11:30. One car, with a whopping 3 more to pick up in Wildwood. As odd as it looks, it's actually a good sign, as it shows no matter what the tonnage on these trains from day to day, CSX plans to keep on running them. East out of Lakeland we'd go after 729, as we knew of a handful of trains approaching Auburndale, so that's where we'd go. Setting up on Magnolia Street in downtown, we'd point our camera south towards Winter Haven, as the northbound Silver Meteor would be parting said station shortly. The maze of tracks here is a remnant of an old junction and crossing that still exists today between the Seaboard and the ACL. The tracks from east to west are the Carter Sub and the A line, connecting Orlando and Tampa, with the Seaboard's Coleman to Miami SX line crossing at grade underneath US 92. The curved tracks closest to us are the main and siding named the Can Yard Lead. This connection, stemming out from the small Can Yard south of us, is the connection between the Orlando side of the A line and the Auburndale Sub to Miami, the route that Amtrak 98 will momentarily be taking. Appearing just 10 minutes after departing Winter Haven, 98 would arrive led by a roughed-up P-42, putting in its last few months of work for its one and only owner, with its replacement trailing right behind its marker lights.
Let's roll. Let's roll, 98.
Meeting 98 at Haines City would be the southbound Silver Star, number 91, now running about an hour late today. Freight activity near Savannah had delayed all 3 southbound Amtraks the night prior, and now they'd all have priority into the Florida Peninsula to make up lost time. 91 would be a notable train today, as Amtrak 301, their Day 1 painted heritage unit, would be in the second position. The black livery with their original pointless arrow was the company's first paint scheme, introduced in 1971, their first year of operation. Waiting at Lakeland for 91 to clear would be a northbound freight, soon lined through Auburndale and its interlocking, lighting up the diamond signal with a high green. The train would be M457, running a bit late today. He's usually a 9 a.m. train through here, today seen just after 1300 in the commercial side of Auburndale. Known as the orange juice capital of Polk County, Auburndale is a mix of middle-class housing and communities and massive multi-million-dollar company headquarters and factories like Coca-Cola and Sutrail, a cold storage and citrus product facility. In 2023, it shipped out more orange juice than any other plant in the state.
457 is north on me, got a clear Auburndale airlock 1016 801 out.
M457 would be a nice catch in the noontime sun here in Auburndale, rounding the curve at speed with freight for Orlando and Sanford. Since Sunrail doesn't run on the weekends, 457 would have no problem entering the corridor and completing their journey to Taft. 5 miles to the south of Auburndale is Winter Haven, another town heavily built on the citrus industry in this area. The town, known for its chain of lakes, hosts 55,000 residents 113 years after initially being incorporated in 1911. Back in its heyday, Winter Haven was also a junction town, as the SAL's Miami-bound extension crossed the South Florida Railroad's and later ACL's Lake Alfred to Bartow branch right here at the station. The northern portion of that line is now long gone, but tracks from here to Bartow are now owned and operated by the Florida Central, a company owned by Regional Rail. The station here, now used by Amtrak, was once the Seaboard's 1925-built depot, rebuilt in 1947 and maintained here ever since. The stucco walls and Spanish tile roof are classic Seaboard architecture, notable for its Florida Gator colors and original pointless Amtrak logo, probably installed here over 50 years ago. The small station hosted over 21,000 passengers in 2023, averaging about 58 a day, a number that's been slowly rising since the early 2000s. Line through would be Amtrak 91, now out from its Tampa detour and back on the road south, stopping here with Amtrak 97 right on his heels.
No defects. Total axle 4. End of transmission.
A couple dozen would be boarding 91 today, bound for anywhere between Sebring and Miami, with another 20 or so passengers in the waiting room waiting out Amtrak 97, who was also pretty late today due to their overnight delays. 91's slow departure would give us enough time to move south into the Winter Haven double track about 2 miles south of the station as 97 rounded the bend. 91 would be going into the hole at Frostproof to wait on its northbound counterpart, Amtrak 92, with 97 slowing to meet him here in this stretch of double track. Like I said earlier, Winter Haven's source of commerce is still heavily reliant on the citrus industry, making scenes like these warehouses and freezers flanking the right-of-way a common sight. Just a couple minutes later, and now our third Amtrak in 30 minutes arrives. Amtrak 92, the northbound Silver Star, bound for Tampa, this one running right on time.
92, Amtrak engine 352 north approach limited, Winter Haven.
Now, we knew one more train would be coming south, so we'd move back to the station as we heard M453 meeting 92 at Auburndale. A high green would await the freight's arrival at the station, creating a scene I've been wanting to see for quite a while now, a daylight freight passing this historic depot. Not something very rare around here, but seldom documented. .453 would end our very eventful day trackside, as we wanted to begin the trek home before traffic got too bad. Thanks for watching this one, everyone. I always appreciate the views and comments, so leave one if you have anything to say. But until we meet again somewhere out there trackside, this is Christian from Multicolor Films. End of transmission.